on a few different tents. The reason so many different tents are available on the market is that they have different purposes. I've got smaller tents for backpacking, medium-sized tents for just a quick trip out on the weekend, and then a larger tent like this one behind me. It's like a Cabela's Getaway Lodge 8. For a base camp, we like the size because it gives us room for equipment for whatever our particular activity is for that trip. It gives us room for us all to be able to sleep comfortably with cots, etc. And it even has space that we put the crate in for our dog, because our dog joins us on all of our trips as well. Step over real quick. So, I mean, it's a basic setup. We got our equipment setting over here. We've got cot. We've got other cots over here, and of course the crate for the dog. This tent's nice and roomy. And I apologize for the condition of the tent. We've been living in this for a few days at this point. Now, as far as the base camp goes, a lot of people add a lot more creature comforts, or potentially even less. But again, the goal with this particular setup is to be comfortable and to have the base operations. Now, there's a lot of other ways you could add for more creature comfort. We've got a couple lanterns hanging from the ceiling, which are some basic Streamlight lanterns, and I'll show you those real quick. These guys right here. This is a Streamlight Siege AA lantern. It's not very big, and of course it's daylight, so it's not going to really do any justice, but they're extremely bright. We got a couple of those hanging up. We've got several of those in our kit. They're nice, they're small, they're waterproof, they're pretty indestructible. Streamlight makes really good stuff. They make everything from camping gear as far as lighting goes to extreme durability, military and police and rescue application type lights. Other people will add stuff like Gold Zero solar generators and such to be able to power for devices and other things. You could probably see sitting over on my cot one of our radios. We've got several Baofeng radios that we use for communications while we're here at camp. We're not out here long enough to really need to charge them again, because they'll last for several days with constant use, relatively constant use. But if we were on a more extended stay, we'd have some kind of backup for power. And a lot of people will add that for a base camp. Now, this base camp we have set up is we came out to an area for other activities. We were going out to the lake and other parks, but like I said, a lot of times, a big time you really see base camps are for stuff like hunting camp, because literally you're coming back to camp to sleep, to cook, etc. And speaking of cooking, we're going to go over to our little camp kitchen we have set up. Alright, we've got our little camp kitchen set up over here. Just like our tents, we've got multiple different shelters as far as camp kitchen goes. We're just 3 of us out here this weekend, and plus the dog. So we've got a smaller pop-up that's made by Colin, which just gives us space for stove, because we decided not to do a campfire this weekend. We got a spot for the stove. We got it set up for our other items as well. We have a camp cook box that we have made. We'll show that here in a second, which holds a lot of our non-perishable items. We have a separate container for just the perishable items, which we then will remove from the area at night. For the base camp I got set up, we'll actually put those items in the truck, so that way it's not accessible to animals. We try to keep the kitchen a little bit farther away from our tent setup, because again, no matter how good you are at cooking, you're going to be dropping something. There's going to be the smell of food set up in the area. It's going to attract animals. So we set up our camp kitchen a little bit away from our tent to keep the animals away from our sleeping quarters. Alright, here we got our camp box. I personally, just from years and years of Boy Scouts, call it the patrol box because that's beaten in my brain. Some people call it chuck box, camp box, kitchen box, whatever you want to call it. It's a box that we have built for the purpose of holding up our kitchen stuff. Now, it actually has more kitchen stuff because, again, like I said, patrol box has been beating my brain since I was a kid. And speaking of kid, here comes one. Because it was a box designed to hold all the equipment for a patrol. In this case, we don't have it for a whole patrol. There's just the 3 of us. Hey, can you stand over here at least? Yeah? Here, we're gonna stand over here. Here, come here, look at the camera.
Come here,
Say hi. Like, nope, not happening. Alright, so we have more than just kitchen stuff in here. This is where my lanterns will go, including propane lantern, LED lanterns. All that stuff will go in the same place. We have, it looks like it's really empty. The stove goes in here. There'll be more pots and stuff in here during longer trips. So it's not completely filled up because we knew we were only going to be out here for a weekend for this particular trip. So we'll keep non-perishable items in here. Stuff like, well, non-perishable as in it doesn't need to be refrigerated or cooled. But we have stuff like spices, oil, our soap, and some other seasonings and whatnot. Now, but usually stuff that would be actual food stuff, we will put into the food stuff box and then put elsewhere. For this type of trip, like I said, it'll go to the truck at night. But if it were somewhere that were a little bit more remote, because we're not overly remote, I mean, this is not a developed campground, we had to get here. But if it were somewhere that was really remote that we couldn't keep the truck overnight, we would then do a bear bag, which is pretty much as explained. But if you don't know what that is, essentially what it is some kind of bag or container that you will then actually put up in a tree. You'll put a line over, lift it up into a tree in order to keep it away from animals at night. I will do a further video on this box itself because, like I said, this is something that we built. I will link my cousin's video when he gets his channel up and running, because he's actually the one that built this thing. He's starting a channel on building stuff. It's his thing. So, all right, to wrap it up, we have, like I said, we got our tent and kitchen set up separately. We've got, and of course that means no eating in the tent, no, keeping food away from the tent. We are on a dispersed campsite. We're not on a developed campsite. We're on a property that we actually had to access by truck in order to do this campsite. Now, if you have to access someplace by some kind of all-terrain vehicle, you have a couple different things. Depending on where you're at, if you're on some kind of federal or state property, there may be specific rules about what you can and cannot do. If there isn't such rules, follow some basic tips. Try and take trails that have already been blazed. I don't care where you're heading, somebody's been there before. Try and find a spot that somebody has used before. Don't start new spots. Don't develop new camp rings. Try and find some place that someone's already used, if possible. Every once in a while you get to a place that it seems like it's relatively pristine and you can't find anything, then it is what it is, because you want to definitely make something that contains that fire. But if at all possible, go where people have gone before in order to reduce the impact of you being there. You still want to be able to enjoy it, but you also don't want to tear up the area for everybody else in the future. If you are going into an area that requires a vehicle to get to, be mindful of your impact to your vehicle. There's going to be no way there's going to be zero impact. That's just not going to work. But if it's an area that you don't think that you need the four-wheel drive, go ahead and engage it, because that way all your four wheels are going, and hopefully you're not going to be catching and your tires tearing up on ground that doesn't need to. Just keep the tips in mind, and thanks for joining us at our camp today. Be safe and have fun. That's just a final thought. Once you get done with taking your camp down, make sure you police the area. Check for all trash and anything that shouldn't be left in place. Try to reduce your impact as much as possible. If you've got an axe yard set up, make sure to take down all ropes and clean up the area as much as possible. And if you have to leave wood behind, leave behind in a tidy way for the next person to use, just as a matter of courtesy. Thanks for watching.
Bye-bye.
Say bye-bye. Bye-bye.